Excellent, thank you. Just a show of hands, how many of you have heard of IBM before? Okay. So just see if you're awake, right? So this is really the story of the IBM Open Badge program. I'm with a group called the IBM Training Group, and I work on looking for innovations, how to start to bring new business to IBM, how to find new ways to improve the way we do our training and our certification and all those other areas. And a couple of things are happening in our industry I just want to point out to you that are top of mind for us at IBM in the training business. Our job is not only to train the IBM employees, but also to make sure that our customers have the skills that they need to be successful. In fact, we want our customers to not only be successful, but we want them to lead in business. And so that's another part of my role, is to make sure that they have what they need. The question on all of our minds is, how do we build the next generation of the IT workforce? And a couple stats. You've all seen this, and there are updated stats on this that show that 4 out of 5 businesses don't have the skills that they need right now. So that, again, is a big, big problem. It's a big problem for IBM. It's a big problem for our customers. We have signals that are emerging now that are showing that the landscape for skills and the labor market is changing very, very dramatically. Now, on the next chart, I'm going to ask, and I'm going to challenge every one of you to kind of be a futurist with me on this, right? These are the 3 areas that we're looking at right now, is all these different things that are happening with lifestyle changes, right? Flexible work. The average employee in the United States changes jobs 11 times in a lifetime. They only keep jobs for 4.4 years now. So it's pretty startling. Technology, obviously we talked about blockchain already, but there are a lot of other things that are happening. Gamification is growing. All right, I see a lot of cameras up there. And by the way, I have my little, the labor market is changing so dramatically for us that we're going to have to dramatically think about the way we look at skills and how we start to catalog and inventory skills. The big elephant in the room for us, and it's for everybody in the room, not just in the IT area, is cloud. No question, right? Cloud is decentralizing. It is really disrupting in a very big way the IT structures, where we now have this, a shadow IT is growing. You like my animations on these things? I'm trying to keep you guys awake at lunch. But really, IT used to be centrally controlled. Everything came through IT. But now with cloud, that is dramatically different, and people are walking away with IT assets. Salesforce.com is a classic example, right? Sales organizations don't need to go for a centralized CRM solution. They just buy something on the cloud. Learning management systems, you don't need a centralized learning management system. Marketing teams, they don't need to have a centralized marketing database anymore. They go to Marketo or they go to some other type of source, right? So now you have all these different lines of businesses that are in the IT business, right? And that is dramatically changing the shape of jobs, right? So we now have this emerging roles, these hybrid jobs, where, back to the marketing example, a marketing person, even 2 or 3 years ago, they needed to know, how to develop a marketing plan, how to do a go-to-market strategy, how to work on messaging. Now they need to know social media marketing. They need to know social analytics. They need to understand how to work with collaborative communities. They know how to manage brands through social media, right? So that's dramatically different than it was before. On the other end of it, the code monkeys that we used to lock in a room and develop code, right? They now have to go out to the lines of business. They have to be able to speak English and go out to sales and marketing and product management and support and be able to communicate very clearly. So not only do they need to have these IT skills, they need to have data visualization skills. They need to have communication skills. They need to have project management skills, right? They didn't need that even a couple years ago. Everything was done in the IT department. So there's some other changes that I want to bring up real quick with you too. And the rise of global teams is becoming top of mind, right? Everything was hierarchical not that very long ago. And now we've moved toward, teams. But the way things really work, and the way things are going to work even more so in the future, is that you're going to be on a team for 6 months, and then you'll be on another team for another 6 months. We see it at IBM all the time. IBM stands for I've been moved. And so, and we move constantly. So, and it's a good thing, actually, because it really enriches the way we get business done. Where I'm working with people in India or in Amsterdam one day, and on the next day I'm working with somebody in some other area. So I get very deep insights into things that I didn't even know. So it's really a good thing. But it is the way that things are, this is truly the way things are going to look in the next couple of years. There's another very, very big a big movement in the labor market, and I heard a number of people talk about it yesterday. I know you talked about it, was the gig economy, right? The gig economy is the on-demand labor market. In the United States, the on-demand workers comprise roughly around 34% of the labor market now, and some estimates say that it could be up to 50% in 2020. That's 4 years from now. You think about it with Uber. I'm not sure how popular Uber is. I know it's not here in this town. But you think about Airbnb, Uber, all these things, again, by the way, they're disrupted by what? Cloud, right? People are becoming their own shopkeepers. They're becoming their own innkeepers. They're becoming their own taxi services, right? And the same thing is going to be true in a lot of other different labor markets as well. So the gig economy is changing the relationship that we have with employees in a very, very big way. The software releases, and this is very, very important for the work I personally do. We used to release software on an 18-month life cycle. We distributed on disks, and then later we did it on little tiny thumb drives or something else, right? And it was released every 18 months, right? Now we're releasing it, because of cloud, every 12 weeks. So we are in what's called an agile development cycle at IBM, changing our software constantly. Now the question is, how do you keep up with all of this? How do you keep up with all these dramatic changes that are happening in the market and in IT? Everything points to a need to change dramatically the way we develop skills and the way we take inventory of skills, right? And from my perspective, and I know you guys, I'm probably going to add to the list after this conference, but my list of the 4 things that were top of mind starting to think of the credential programs at IBM were these. Credentials now must be timely, they have to be verifiable, they have to be portable, and they have to be discoverable. But again, for all the reasons we just outlined, the whole gig economy, finding people, and all these other things, these are the 4 things that became top of mind as the criteria when we started to look at what are we going to do next with our credential programs. So the question is then, how will we do it? Well, I got a directive to do something. And a senior vice president at IBM came to me and said, we have a problem attracting big data developers to IBM. Every major IT company has a problem finding big data developers. And he says, how are you going to help with this? And my original inclination was to say, well, you've got a branding problem. IBM has to attract people through its branding, right? But and then I started to think about it. Well, from a skills perspective, there is a lot of things that we can do to start to attract developers. We started looking at open badges and met with our developer works team in North Carolina. We have a very smart group of people in North Carolina. And after an afternoon, we started looking at what are the different strategies we would do to attract big data developers to IBM. Well, open badges rose to the top as a way that we might want to attract more big data developers. So started looking around for different resources. Acclaim had just been released maybe a year before from Pearson. So we knew that the badge programs were out there. We'd seen the open badge standards. We liked it. We also knew that we needed a platform that was robust enough for the size of an enterprise like IBM. We also thought about a build versus buy scenario, building a platform. We quickly dismissed the idea of building it ourselves. We're not experts at that. We don't want to maintain it. We don't want to pull people inside the IBM firewall. And we also work with a lot of vendors. We now have good relationships with Apple and Microsoft and others. And we know that we want to be vendor neutral as well as we start to issue badges. So we quickly started working with Pete Jansow at Acclaim and started to form an open badge program. We started in January of last year. And in the next 90 days, we started to flesh out the program. By the way, it was very important for us when we started to develop this badge program to keep our team very, very nimble. And I'm not sure about the failures that I've heard about on your thing right there. But when we started the Open Badge program, I had actually angry phone calls from people and at high levels at IBM saying, how come I won't let their team members into the planning sessions for our Open Badge program? I had at least 25 or 30 people that wanted to be on the calls. We kept it to 4 people on those calls to develop the program because we knew that it would just be a coffee clutch and a kumbaya session every Monday morning. We didn't want that. So in 90 days at IBM, by the way, is a very fast turnaround for a program when you have legal and IBM design and branding and everything to work with. We came up with 5 different emblems for the 5 different types of programs at IBM. We intentionally tried to keep the program simple. We wanted to keep it flexible. We wanted it to represent all of the different types of training and skills development and any type of recognition programs that were being administered at IBM. At IBM, on any given day, with 450,000 employees roughly around the globe, we have a learning or training activity being administered probably every hour of every day somewhere on the globe. So it's pretty overwhelming, all the different things that could happen at IBM. But we thought that this would cover it. We wanted to follow kind of a similar KSAT model where we had badges for knowledge activities, badges for skills, badges for real competence and proficiency. And our distinction between those two was, again, using a metaphor maybe for photography. If I can read the manual and take the exam on how to use a camera, I'd get a knowledge badge. If I can actually point and shoot the camera or hold it, I could get a skills badge. But can I take an award-winning photograph? Can I take something that is publishable or something that, in our world, an app or some code that's published to GitHub? That to me is real proficiency. And then we, of course, certified, and then we have member level type of badges for general things as well. It was very, very important at IBM that we start to look at metrics and measurements and also start to look at the audiences. And I think that as you're starting to develop your programs, if you are developing a badge program, you have to be very, very explicit in the messaging that you do for the different audiences. You can't just come out with a message that says open badges do this and that. You have to think about what the audience is listening for. There are 3 different groups at IBM that we started to look at, and these are the broad, generic things that we thought that they would be interested in. There's the badge earner, of course, right? There's the badge issuer, in our case it's IBM, and then there's the consumer. In our case it would be employers. Going even deeper than this, though, when we message out at IBM and when we try to convince our internal stakeholders to adopt badges, I have to think about what does an offering manager care about? What does a marketing manager care about? What does a sales manager care about, right? Very, very different. Sales managers are interested in sales. Offering managers and marketing are interested in how much branding you're going to get out of this thing. Almost none of them is concerned about, your training classes. So I have to make sure that the message is very, very carefully crafted to what people are listening for. And I think that that's a very important lesson learned that as you start to develop any kind of program like this. But you can read this list yourself, and I know that many of you have thought of this. Back to that list, though, these are some of the things that immediately started to come to mind that we would start to use in our messaging, right? We thought that these were 8 ways that badges would provide real value to the IBM company. Increasing the verified talent for our clients, developing skills progression. Big problem we have, obviously, like everybody does, is progressing people and getting people engaged, right? Crowdsourcing of innovation is very important for us. We want to see how we can, create vibrant communities of people that are contributing. Product sales, obviously, and trials of our products, very, very important. Support costs at IBM cost roughly around $300 a support call. And that is just the cost to IBM. That's not a cost to the client in their lost productivity time as well. Almost all the support calls at IBM are training issues. They're not related to the product failures. People just don't know how to use the products. Client confidence, motivating employees, and then, of course, mapping our skills. Big, big problem. In a company like IBM, back to the problem with the gig economy. How are you going to start to map all these skills together? All these people that are changing teams every 10 minutes. How are you going to start to figure out all the nano skills that somebody has to be able to be in a sales and marketing organization now that those skills are changing every 10 minutes, right? So those were the top of mind value propositions that go into the messaging then that we go out to these support teams, marketing teams, and everything else. Well, the big challenge for us, our first challenge at IBM, was in an area called Big Data University. Big Data University had done a very good job attracting people. It's a free online university. It has roughly about 250,000 subscribers at this point. It's fully free. It has courses not only on IBM technology, but more than that, it's relatively vendor agnostic. It can truly teach you how to be a big data professional. The courses start at a very low level. In fact, every single person in this room can earn an IBM badge going through Big Data University by taking the Intro to Big Data course or the Intro to Hadoop course, one of the basic foundational courses that are there. But they weren't getting people to finish the courses. It's a typical MOOC problem, right? 5% of the people are finishing the courses. Nobody is passing the exam, really, at the end of it. There's no real incentive to continue to go to the next course. So the progression was nothing. Well, we decided to develop badges for Big Data University. We developed, at this point, I think there are more than a dozen badges up there, but some of the first ones are listed here. Back to that same looking at the branding, they were mostly knowledge badges in Big Data University. So we started to create these badges, and last, I think it was May or something like that, we started issuing badges in Big Data University. We told that senior vice president about, the question, how are you going to attract these big data developers? We said, well, if we can attract an additional 10% of people to Big Data University and get maybe an additional 25% people to complete the courses, would that be success? We thought that that would be a good line in the sand of an increase in, engagement in Big Data University. After, I think it was about 8 weeks, we started looking at the numbers coming out of Big Data University, and we had to do the math multiple times because the numbers were truly overwhelming. And by the way, in Big Data University, we didn't introduce anything else during that time frame. It was a good case study for us to be able to isolate the benefits of open badges. We didn't have some executives going up and saying, you are required to go there, or, hey, this is a great place to go. The results were absolutely astounding. The number of people coming up, Big Data University increased by 129%. Completing those courses, up by 226%. Then on the bottom corner here, you can see the passing of the assessments. So people that, to get the badge, you have to complete the course. Went up by almost 700%. It was absolutely phenomenal. So that gave us a really good insight into the impact that open badges could have on progression through a MOOC or an online university. But the results went way, way beyond training incentives. We also started looking at some other indicators that were coming out of Big Data University and some other areas, and we started doing polling people that had taken badges. And by the way, Big Data University was one of several early pilot studies we did. We also did them with online other courses, public classes. We did it with people who were contributing to our database of testimonials, case studies, things like that. So by the time we started this thing last May, we had about 7 different activities on board. We did a good cross-section of different types of activities. And some other numbers that came out of this I think were very, very interesting. Engagement. 87% of the people we polled said that they now had a better opinion for the IBM brand. They wanted to get more deeply engaged with IBM. One of the numbers that came out of that was the number of people that came back to Big Data University. A year into this now, the average badge earner has come back for 3 badges. Now, the first badge, and this is an important lesson we've learned as well, is that we absolutely take a gamification strategy in Big Data University where we get people on the leaderboard with what we think is a resume-worthy activity, but it's not that difficult, right? They have to take an exam on big data fundamentals. They can speak the language. They can't lead the team, but they can understand it. But it's not particularly difficult. Anyone in this room could pass the Big Data Foundations course. Getting to the second badge is a lot harder. You have to start to, really dig into it. And the third one and the fourth one, it gets progressively deeper as you start becoming an analytics expert in Big Data University. The average person has come back now for 3 badges. to Big Data University. Back to that gamification strategy approach, and I think this is very important, and you mentioned something about the rigor into the first badge, which is a very bad strategy, I think a very bad strategy. You want to get people to read the first chapter of the book. You don't want them to have a PhD by the time they are, finish this course. There was a study that was done in the United States with gas stations and car washes. I'm not sure how popular car washes are here. But in the United States, we have these little car wash coupons that you can get. It's a punch card. And it typically has about 8 different slots on it. And once you get a punch, every time you buy a car wash 8 times, on the 8th one, you get a free car wash, right? Well, there was a study that was done where they issued at the same car washes punch cards that had 8 holes, and they were all, ready to be punched, and then one that had 10 holes on it. But the first 2 were already punched. Guess which one attracted more people to the car wash, right? So that's the same kind of strategy that you need to think about when you try to get people onto the leaderboard with an online university. Certifications. We did a study with our cloud certifications. That was one of the early studies as well. We added badges leading up to certification. 57% increase in the number of people passing the certifications if they took those badgeable activities. Again, they've read chapter 1, they've read chapter 2, they might as well go through and go all the way through the book and get the certification. Dramatic increase there. Our product trials, now this is of course what I tell the salespeople, right? In Big Data University, and I think this is a very good strategy when you're developing a MOOC or an online university, tie it to something else of value in your organization. Big Data University allows people to do a product trial immediately. Download the product after you've taken that first course. 64% increase in product trials. Now, in this case, training is actually leading the license sale for IBM. Typically, we sell the products and then we teach people how to use it, right? That's what always happens, right? A failing way to do it, right? But now, we're getting the training out there and the products right at that same time before they even go and buy it. So now we've created a pipeline. We're in lead generation business because of open badges, which is pretty remarkable. And then the employability. 92% of the people polled said that they think that open badges is going to increase their employability. That's what it truly is all about, right? Some other ROI numbers that came out of this as well. And this came from our Smarter Workforce Institute. Smarter Workforce Institute at IBM is owned by IBM, but it runs relatively independently as an analyst research institution. And they poll thousands of companies around the world. So it's not a US statement. But these are some of the numbers that they showed us when we asked them about open badges and how that might impact some of the different metrics that they're looking at, reduced turnover employees. And when you think about how much it costs just to hire an employee, in the US it's about $4,000 US just to get somebody into the organization, not to mention all the other opportunity costs and loss costs when you lose productivity. But anyway, I'm not going to belabor the numbers here, but you can see that these are some very compelling numbers that a recognition program, credential program like an open badge program can bring to your organization. Back to the marketing people. Social media impressions for IBM have been huge. We have already generated millions of dollars US in social media impressions from our open badges. We get 2.5 million social media impressions for every 10,000 badges we issue. So imagine the impact of the vitality of your brand trickling into Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter every single day from open badges. Again, it's a compelling number. And then if you start to look at the math on it again, what if they're worth 5 cents a piece, 10 cents a piece? You have to connect the dots, by the way, for people that you're trying to convince. You have to tell them exactly what it's worth in dollars or euro. The Consolidated Skills Registry, very big. I mentioned all the different activities we have going on every minute at the globe, and half these activities are being held, in conference rooms. They may be held at innovation centers. We have hackathons. We have public classes. Everybody has their own database of completions. It could be a spreadsheet. It could be a learning management system. It could be, something that's in an email list, right? But if they badge everything goes into a central repository. We've been looking for this holy grail of a centralized learning management system, which we've never been able to get. We have business partners all over the world. They're not going to put their stuff into our system. And so we've been thinking, how do we use APIs? How do we create an XML? What do we do to do this? Badges solves the problem instantly. Everything goes into a collective skills registry for us. So now, if this person has taken a course in the United States, and then they come over here, and they've taken one here in Bologna, and they maybe did some online courses at Big Data University, we have insight into every one of those. And think about if we start using Watson Analytics on that. We have started to do that, by the way. And we can start to connect the dots. We can see where they go first, where they go second. We can start making recommendations now to where people should go third. And we can also look at the time between those activities to see who's a flight risk and see if we should start to market things in a different way to those people. So amazing insights we can get by having this collective skills registry that we couldn't have before. A question that I often get asked at IBM, and back to this whole thing about the rise of teams, the gig economy, all these other things, where are the skills? You know, how do we start to catalog the different skills? Our business partner organization has, hundreds of thousands of business partners in it, and they're all over the globe. And we have at a broad level, through certification and understanding of what they've done, we don't have at a nano level what they've done. We have no idea who has introductory foundational cloud skills, or who understands, how to work with security in banks. We don't even know that. We have it at a broader level. The regional people have an idea. But if I go to the CTO in China and she asks me, can you tell me how many people we have that have cloud skills in different parts of the globe? I can say yes now, because I can say, in 15 minutes, and I've done this before. I've taken, a person asked me, who do we have in our organization that has cloud developer skills? Who has basic cloud architect skills? Can you show me that? I created a heat map with Bing Maps, and it took me 15 minutes to export the data out of a claim, bring it into Excel, and I'm not very good at pivot tables, okay? So I have to kind of remember, look at a little tutorial before I even do it again. But anyway, I created a simple pivot table, and then I used Bing Maps on it. I visualized so she could see exactly how many people in different parts of the globe were doing it. And I'll have to go back and look at the tutorial again if I do it again. But the point is that we can tell literally in 15 minutes where the talent is at the nano level for anybody that's in this collective skills registry. And that, by the way, is not just IBM employees. It's our business partners, because they're getting badged. It's our customers. It's our potential customers. It's our leads that are coming into Big Data University. I know where they're all at. So I know how to market to all of those people at a different level. And that's something, again, we could never have done before. Open badges. Pearson did a great thing with their badge platform. And they added dynamic labor market data into the badges. Now, this is tremendously valuable on multiple fronts. On the back end for a badge earner, when they earn an IBM badge, they can go into their badge, into the badge backpack, badge wallet, and they can double click on one of the skills. And in real time, it brings up all the jobs that are associated with the skills that they've just earned. Now, it's only US-speaking countries at this point. I think it's India, the United States, and England, and Singapore, and a few other, I think Canada, and hopefully going global on this. But think about the possibilities there. When somebody earns one of your badges, and they can go in there, and it not only shows them things like you're seeing here, it shows them the salaries, it shows them how many jobs are open for that type of thing, it tells them the actual cities where the biggest population of those jobs are. It tells them what they should put on their resumes, what kind of titles they should be looking for. And if you double click on that, it drills all the way down to the job posting so you can apply for the job. So think about how that really starts to really improve employability. I mean, this is democratizing for people, right? That is actually taking them in. Now, as you start to develop your badge programs, think about using that on the front end. If you're in a university, right? Where you can say, if you take my courses, these are the types of jobs that you're going to be opening yourself up to. Here are the types of possibilities for a career for you. I can give you real-time insights before you even take the course. Why not show them this up front? And then of course, they have a compelling reason to finish the course, right? So another good strategy. Back to that whole rise of teams. 5 minutes. Okay, good. I'm half Italian, by the way, so I can speak even faster. But by creating this registry of skills, think about what this can do with the way we can start to connect people in ways we never thought of before. And I want to use an example back to the big data thing, right? Everybody is looking for data scientists. And back to whoever had the unicorn, you know, you did, right? The unicorn. I call the big data scientist a unicorn because everybody has their own description for it. But truly, a data scientist has to have a PhD in math. They have to have data visualization skills, data munging skills, communication skills, project management skills. They have to be up to date on all the latest technologies. Who has this, right? I mean, this is at least a very expensive employee that's in high demand, and there are a lot of open recs all over the globe for people saying, I have a business problem that I know that a data scientist can solve, right? But maybe if you had a registry of all the skills you already have in your organization, maybe you could create a data science team. Maybe, Serge is a PhD in math, and maybe, Francois has data visualization skills, and Susan has data munging skills, and another person has project management skills. What if I bring them all together? I elevate their positions and say, I want to put you on the data science team to solve these business problems, right? And now I can backfill them with lower priced employees. I've elevated their positions. They're happy. I have a much lower risk in my organization of somebody leaving, an expensive employee just quitting on me, right? Everything works when you have a skills registry like this where you can really create real teams of people with real meaningful jobs. And so that's something we're starting to think about and look at IBM. I have just one more thing to talk about a little bit, was back to badges and certifications. A lot of people ask me about badges and certifications, and a lot of people are trying to shoehorn our open badges into mini certifications, and they're nothing of the sort, right? They are a digital representation of an existing activity, and that's how we've always thought of it. But the question is, how do we complement our existing certification programs? Back to that earlier chart, we're not on an 18-month cycle anymore with our product releases. We have a big problem in the IT world doing certifications. If you're on an 18-month cycle, it's easy to create a certification every 18 months. When you're on a 60-day cycle, not so easy, right? So looking at the different comparisons between certification and badges, came up with two charts I just want to leave you with on this. One is what a certification is and what a badge is. I think certifications, and back to the pathways versus gateways at the beginning of the conference, I think that a certification is a gateway and a badge is a pathway. Certifications by design are designed to restrict the number of people coming in. Think about it like getting a taxi token in New York City. It costs $400,000 and it excludes people. It creates this shortage, right? And therefore people are waiting for taxis. Now Uber, of course, is disrupting that, right? So I think certifications are these standalone activities. They represent authority. They're legally defensible, psychometrically sound, all these other things. But they absolutely cannot keep up with the pace of change. Not to say that we don't need certifications. I think we do need certifications. But here's my proposal for you on the back end on that. My proposal is we start to look at things like certifications and college degrees, frankly, as those things that have a shelf life of 24 months or more. So in our case, for example, a data architect, a person who understands how to do architecture, that will last for 2 years, right? But think about what you could add to that with a credential stack underneath that, right? So you can have these continuing education credentials underneath that says they have this legally defensible, psychometrically sound foundation, right? But then I'm going to use the T model here, and I'm going to say, well, they also know Hadoop, they also know Spark, they also know Slack, they know all these different technologies that are changing every 60 days, and they might not even be around in a year. And so now I have the opportunity to not only change, and this is Pete's term, I think, change certifications from a transactional relationship to a transaction to a relational relationship, right? So it's from transactions to relations. And we can also then create these new types of certifications where I can say, I can have a big data developer for healthcare, or I can have a security analyst for banking. So again, a lot of amazing possibilities that come out when you come out to the credential space on this. That is my pitch. I just have one last little thing since everybody's showing videos. I don't know if this will show, but this is from Pearson. We had a woman who came through Big Data University, hard time finding a job. She had been out of the labor market for a couple years. And she went through Big Data University, caught a couple badges, went out and started applying for jobs, and she got a job. And I think that's just, to me, why I wake up in the morning. So just here's Coletta's story, unless you were going to show this. I don't know. I don't know if the audio is going to work on this. Does the audio work? Oh yeah, audio over here. guess I should have done that first. Sorry, guys. Yeah. Yeah, if it'll be loud enough, though. Should we try it? Okay, well, if it doesn't work. Okay, let's see if this works.
Hi, I'm Coletta Teskey. I'm a freelance writer. I'm currently working as an information architect, and I live in Tampa Bay, Florida. I had been out of work for a couple of years, and when I came back to work, my skills were out of date, and I did not have any.
This is not showing. Hold on, let me see if I can go to it. Will this show? Yeah, I'm not sure how to present it. Oh well. Float on top. Enter full screen. Okay. Where should we do? Maybe view. Sorry. Here it is.
Current work experience on my resume. I decided to take courses through Big Data University after I saw a tweet from IBM Training. I think the digital badges helped me get a job because they increased my confidence. And after I earned the badges and I saw that I could get my skills back up real quick, my confidence level took a big jump, and I think that helped a lot in getting a job.
So that way you don't have to take my word for it. Thank you.
So with Pete's permission, we're going to take just a few questions for David. Does anybody have a question?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much. A very interesting presentation and some amazing results. I was just wondering, also with the last thing you showed, the T-skills model, what does the near future look like for your badge program? Are you going to, make it?
A couple things on that. It's dramatically changing the way we're looking at certification. So we're now starting to look at our certifications and saying, what are we going to start to create, like solution architects, big data developers, and stop looking at product-focused certification. So we're going to start to move away from product-focused certifications. The number of badges we've issued now is, we're issuing sometimes 20,000 badges a week. And we went from 6 or 8 or 10 different badgeable activities when we first started with Pearson to I think we have about 450 activities that we're badging at IBM now. So it has hockey sticked up dramatically. The claim rate on our badges, and I think that, I don't know if Pete, you were going to touch on this, but the claim rate on our badges is extremely high. It's gone up across the industry for badges, and that to me is an indicator that badges are starting to diffuse in the IT industry. From our perspective, and we have Marilyn Van Eck in the room here from IBM as well. Marilyn is my counterpart working on internally at IBM. So now we're starting to wholesale look at all the HR functions we have at IBM. Professional development, recognition programs, all the different ways that we measure and look at skills and how do we start to attract talent to IBM is all being looked at very, very carefully through the viewpoint of open badges.
One more question? Oh. Then I think we'll move on to Pete.
Thank you. That was really interesting and inspiring talk. I wanted to know, is there a simple way of explaining how you link the labour market information or data into the badge?
Yes, we employed Pearson to do that. But there are a number of different sources for data, and one of them is through CEB. And I'm not sure what the name of the company is right now through CEB, but Talent Neuron is one of the sources. So Talent Neuron does this. Burning Glass does it as well. And I don't know if Pete has time during his talk, but he can talk a little bit about the linking, the labor market insights, how they created a tab. There's a tab inside the badge backpack for the person so they can look at it. But it's literally a link to that real-time data through those data sources. So you'd have to hire or acquire data through the CEB, Talent Neuron, or through Burning Glass to do that. And if Pete has time, I guess he can talk during his talk on that. But the shorter answer is outsource.
Great. Yeah, actually, Talent Neuron, they acquired Wanted Analytics, I think, right?
Right. It was Wanted Analytics before.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.